Material 3 is a really awesome UI widget library from Google. And guess what? It is about to get released for Angular also. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can already start using the Material 3 UI widgets and component in your Angular application. As you can see that it has plenty of new UI components and it has a improvised look and feel to it. So like the elements that we are already familiar with, the materials, date picker, table, dialog, whatever, they are bit enhanced in the Material 3. And they also have like some new components that they have introduced, like this. You can make it outline or just field, which was not there before. And like there are plenty of other elements also, like the bottom sheet, which was not there, or maybe your expansion panel. They, as you can see, that they have a really good nice look and feel this time. Even your date picker is you can make it rounded like that. In general, Material 3 is a future of a design system, and Angular Material is a library that is already very popular among the developer, and many people use it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can already start to use it, how to set up the Material 3 in the Angular project, and how you can basically start using the latest UI components for your next project. If you are new to this channel, I want to introduce you. Like on this channel, I make very interesting tutorials about the technical topics, and sometimes I also make a tutorials about how to prepare for the job interviews, how to crack the job interviews. So if you are new here, I request you to show support. I make the videos to share my knowledge and to contribute to the community, and I don't get any financial benefits out of it. It's totally for following my hobby. But if you like my content, subscribing to my channel is a really good way to show support, and it really motivates me a lot. So I'm going to show you how to set up the Material 3. It is basically in the experimental mode, as I'm saying, but by the some time it will not be. So as you can see that I have Angular Material 3 experimental, and I'm going to show you how you do this setup in your Angular project. And we are going to basically play around with all the components that are newly available. We are going to see like how we can set them in our custom Angular application. We are going to explore like what are the new possibilities. And don't worry about the code. All the source code that I'm going to show a example, I'm going to show a demo on, will be available on my GitHub. You just have to check the description below, and you will see all the links. And I will also tell you, like, if you just clone the repository, you will be able to do the same things on your local instance. Okay, so let's start by creating a new project in Angular, and I'm using Angular's latest version, which is Angular 17.2. So that we are gonna use for our this project of demo of Angular Material 3. So what I'm going to do is just do ng new, and let's call this a Material 3 demo, and this will create a new project for me. And I'm going to choose SCSS because I want to use that. uh, I don't want server-side rendering, so I'll simply put N, and it will give me a project for my Angular. And I guess I'm not connected to the internet, so probably it will fail the installation of library. Let me turn on the internet, and I think hopefully it will install the libraries. Let's see if it does. And luckily it worked. So let me cd into my new project, and we'll clear this, and let's see what we got here. So obviously we'll have like the scaffold project that Angular generates by default. So now we have to install the Material 3 library. Okay, to install the Material 3 library, usually we do that with the ng add. Basically, it's not just about material, but if you have to install any package that supports Angular schematics, you do that with the ng add. And this is the traditional way. If you have to install the libraries, you do ng add Angular material, and it will install that. But since in our case, the Material 3, as I said in the starting, Material 3 is in the experimental mode. It's still not officially released. But if you want to like install that, we can still install that, but it doesn't work with the Angular schematic. So if I do ng add and just paste the package name, it will say that Angular schematics will be installed. But if I go, it just giving me the like package will be installed, and if I say yes, it will fail. Reason is because this is in the experimental mode, and package was not found, and that does not support the schematics. So this is in the schematics, sorry, this is in the experimental mode, and that's why Angular schematic doesn't support this package to be installed. So basically Angular schematics handles the things like creation of the some files or some configuration files or updating the style css like that. If I do a same thing with the normal Angular material, it will install the latest stable version of Angular material and it will work perfectly. But in our case, since it's not released officially and it's in experimental mode, and we want to try the things before it releases, that's why we are going to follow a different approach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this Angular material 3 experimental as a dependency in my package.json. I'm also going to add the Angular material as a dependency so that I get like latest version of Angular material also. And there are a few other libraries that we need, like the animation common, that we definitely going to put there. So I'll simply I can do like this way, or if you're using yarn, it's easy. If you just do yarn add and then paste the name of the package that you want to install, and yarn behind the scenes take care of getting the latest version of that package and it makes that entry. So I just did like yarn add Angular material, and it will update the package.json over here. There we go. I have Angular material 17.3.0 that's added. And that's the beauty. If you are using Yarn, you just need to provide the name of package and it will get like a latest version of that package and we'll put here. Or you can also like specify which version you want to install. And it just a Yarn add command will basically just make entry in the package.json. If you have to install that or install all the packages, you do like yarn install. I'll run that, and this is a one-time command, and as you can see that this is very quick, very fast, because yarn basically uses the cache mechanism for the libraries for all the dependency module. That's why I love yarn as a package manager. Okay, so we have all things installed. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of the boilerplate code that usually is generated. So just update some text and we'll go to the app, and in the app I'll get rid of everything what we have here in the app component.html, and the CSS is fine, TS is okay. So we'll basically create a new component, and our ultimate goal is like we have to, like I have to show you how can we integrate the material 3 components in any Angular application. So I'll create a individual component for each of the example, like for the nav bar, for the menus, for the snack bars, for the toggle, like that. And I'll cover everything so that you get to know, like if you have a custom Angular application, how you can make use of this materials 3's latest UI widgets. So I will simply create, let me close this. So I'll simply create a new component, and that component will basically for showing a date picker, material 3 date picker. So I'll generate a component and we'll call it date picker. And inside that date picker, we are going to basically write a date picker of material 3, and that basically we are going to refer from our app.component.html so that it will be present in our DOM. Okay, so let's start from the date picker component, and in the date picker component basically I'm going to just create a date picker calendar, and we are going to use material 3. So let's make this as a standalone component, and I'm just provided like a CSS, though I'm not going to use much in this example. So let's provide the native date adapter that we basically need to import, and I'll tell you like what is the purpose of it. And then this is my template where I have mat form field, appearance is going to be appearance method. So what I'm going to do in this example, I want to specifically show you that how you can customize the appearance of your date picker. It can be like outline or just field version, and that I'm going to do depending on some condition. If you click on a button, then it's going to change like the appearance of that date picker. So that's why I put it here, but it's completely optional. Then you have like mat label, hint, date picker toggle, like we usually do in the materials, like material component, and bunch of imports that you need. Because I'm using a standalone component, that's why I have too many imports. But in a practical scenario, it's ideal to make it more, to make a code more cleaner. You just import them in a one module, and then you import that module in the component or the another module that you want. So I'll like uh, inject the appearance, because I'm going to decide the appearance of this date field depending on some method in my service, so that's why I have put it like this. And then there we go, my imports. I did one thing also, like I am showing here, I have the appearance service, and that basically means I need appearance service. So I created an appearance service in my services folder, and there I have created a change appearance method, because my goal here is I want to change the appearance of calendar from outline to fill on the fly. Okay, so that's it we need in the date picker component. And if I take you to a browser, it will still not work because I don't have all the imports that I need in my app config. So let's provide those dependencies. So I'm going to use quick link strategy. This is basically for your lazy loading stuff. And we want to have some animation. So that's why we are importing it from the Angular platform animation. So I'll provide animation async as a providers. And in my provider router, I'm basically going to define the with preloading quick link strategy. So this is just for the lazy loading stuff. It's completely optional, but it basically enhances the overall performance of application, so it's good practice to follow it. And then we need to specify it with the view transition and skip initial transition, so that material 3 basically follows these transition patterns. I'm not going into a much details. You can read the documentation of it, like how exactly it was. But for this demo, my purpose is to show how you can integrate Material 3 widgets in any custom Angular application. So yeah, and if I take you to a browser, it's still not going to work completely, because we have one important part missing, and that part is basically your style.scss file. So if you are aware, like whenever we add any css or the any styling related dependencies in an Angular project, we need to import them in our main style file. So since we are using the scss here, we chose the scss when we were creating a project. We have the style.scss, but depending on like what type you choose, you can have a css, scss, sass, or something different. So we need to basically import the material 3 things over here, and this is the important part. Actually, this is where we are importing the material 3 things, and basically telling our application use the css or the material 3 in whatever material elements you encounter. So we need a Angular material import. So we are just importing that in our SCSS, and beauty of using SCSS is that you can import these style sheets like this. So if I just click on it, then you can say like this is the whole style sheet file for the material, and we are just importing them in our style.scss, which is basically at the global level in the Angular project. And then this is the actual part. We are using the material experimental as matrix here. So we are importing that. Since we install the package, it is somewhere in our dependency. So that's what we are going to import. And in the subsequent scss style rules, we are going to use that matrix. So we are also saying like use the sass map, and I'm going to define the palette. And this palette is basically, I'm going to show a couple of themes in material 3. Like you can also put themes. Material comes with a default themes, like you had a indigo, pink, violet, something like that. So similarly, material 3 has a bunch of more palettes, bunch of more themes like cyan, magenta, orange that you can use. They are like by default color schemes that you can put for your component, and it will follow that theme. But you can also customize it and follow something custom scheme that uh, is more specific to your application. So this is all a css part. I'm trying to achieve is just define the theme name and that color name, and whenever like any user choose that theme from somewhere in my application, I'm going to switch to that theme and apply the uh, css rules for that theme. For example, for primary, I'm going to use the palette, which is choose. But again, to iterate, the important thing to use material 3 in your Angular application is this line number 2. You need to import it and put it as a matrix. And yeah, that's where you have the support for the material 3. And this thing is just for the experimental mode, because we are trying out the things in the experimental mode. It's not a release, but when it gets released officially, then you don't need to follow this approach. You basically do ng add and angular ng add angular material, and you will get the most of the things configured by default by Angular schematics. You will just have one import line over here in the style.scss, and you don't need to do this custom stuff that I did here, because in this example I want to show a theme of application on the fly. So these things are because of the reason I want to put a theme selector like this. So this is what my goal is. I'm going to like switch between the themes from here. That's why I'm putting these things, but it's completely optional. If you don't want to do that, it's like you can skip that part. Okay, so I have the styles over here, and also wrote the code for the date picker, so it should be enough for my uh, date picker to work. So if I do a refresh and open it, then it's still broken. Let me check why. And that is because my application is still in the building phase. It's not completely built. So let's wait for a couple of moments. And it's completely built. As you can see, HMR update, it uses Vite behind the scene for compiling all the dependencies and all the stuff. And yeah, this is the hot module replacement. Let's see if it works. And now it looks good, and this is how it should look. And yeah, it's working perfectly, because this is how calendar widget, this is how a date picker looks in the material 3. Just to prove you that we are using a material 3 and not the usual material stuff, I'll take you to the components of materials documentation, and there we'll see like how it looks on the latest version and how it's looking on the application that we have. So if I take you to the date picker, and if I show you that this is how date picker is looking on the latest version of material, which is 17.3, and this is how it's looking on the material 3, which is not officially released, but we still managed to integrate in our application. So if you go to maybe, I don't know, they don't have option over here, but there is a still documentation for material 3, which is over here, material 3 theming. You can also understand like how to set up the material 3. This is the same steps that I did. As you can see that you have to import the Angular material experimental as matrix and then define it in your theme, like which color you want to use, typography, all that. And there are a bunch of other options. These are like the predefined templates and typography options and scale. There are a bunch of other options, and they have given like example also how to use the checkbox. So maybe we can give a try to the checkbox this time. Let's go to our date picker component, or maybe I'll just put that in our app component itself, just to keep it separate. So I have mat checkbox. I need to specify like the imports for the checkbox probably. Mat checkbox, tertiary checkbox, I put a custom class, and I think I probably need to put the import. So I'll go to app component and we'll import mat checkbox module like this, and this should work now. So I have my new checkbox over here. It has a cool uh, click effect, cool rippling effect on click event, and we can basically specify the behavior of it. So if you tweak around the CSS things, like they have a tertiary checkbox, so this is how we can do it. I want to make this video not so lengthy. That's why I want to respect your time, and that's why I'm not going to show you like exactly how to implement each and every component, because there are a bunch of components that are there. It's not a small set of component. That's what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate all those component, and when I have all the projects set up, all the components ready in my Angular application, I'm going to take you through individual component. So I have whole set of components in my project. I have badge, I have bottom sheet, I have buttons, everything that you will need. I'm not saying that this is the whole list, but I try to like cover everything that is usually used in the Angular material. So you will find all the essential elements like the card, button, chips, and what I try to do here in this example is just put a components and the template and import the necessary things. So whenever you will see any component, for example nested menu, you will have imports of the menu related modules that you need from the material. You just have to import them, put it somewhere in your imports. If you are using a standalone components, you can just specify them in the imports array. If you are using a module based approach, then you can make that entry in the imports array in the module, but it depends. But the important thing is you need to have that import, and that's it what you need. I have not put any custom CSS for individual components here because that's not a good practice to use the Angular material component. You put it centrally somewhere in the style file like this. And I have implemented the switch theme functionality, and that is happening in my layout and the service file that I created. So that's it in this application. The reason I'm not taking you to the individual components, because as you can see, the list is pretty big. If I show you how I put a code for each and every of it, it's going to be a very lengthy video, and actually this is not required also. If you understand the approach for the single component, like I showed you for the date picker, how you can set up the stuff for the date picker, then you can follow a same approach to do with another UI widgets, and you will be able to do. It's pretty similar. You just have to see the code, what is exactly there, and you can get that from your Angular materials, the documentation. If you go to the components and then to the API references, you will find like how to do that. If you go to example, it will tell you exactly a code that you need to put in your Angular file. So this is how you use the material documentation. This is how it's looking. I put the menu on the left, that is basically components of whatever things you have. And in the date picker, I implemented like the range date picker, where you can choose the date range like this, which is something new that was not there in the previous material version. And you have like this basic date picker where you can choose the simple one, but in the range you can select the range. So this is something that is added in the material 3. And you have very good variety of badge option that I really found very interesting. You have the snack bar, which is just like a toaster, modified enhanced version of a toaster. Then you have expansion panel, and you also have the bottom sheets, which is something very new. I don't know whether it is which version it was released in, which material version it was released in, very recent I believe. And yeah, of course, theme part, you can switch it from here. You can go to the blue, you can go to the red, or whatever. And what we are doing in behind the scene is we are just leveraging this style.scss file, where we have a bunch of variables defined for this palette like this. And whenever users switch the theme from that right menu, we are simply altering the values of this menus, and that is happening via the main of this theme service here. So I'm just like reading that values, and I'm just altering the scss theme variable from here, as you can see. Okay, so purpose of this video was to show you how you can start using Materials 3 UI widgets in your custom Angular application. And this was basically focused on how to set up the things, how to import it, how to use it. I showed the example of the date picker in detail. But if you want to use any other components, it's pretty easy. You just refer the Angular material documentation, you get to know what code to put, and you just do the steps that you have been doing. You just do the step that you normally have to do, and you'll be able to use it. Remember, I showed this for the experimental mode. Going forward, you don't have to install the experimental module. If it becomes a stable version in a future, then you will basically start using the stable version. If you like this video, do give it a like. And if you really enjoy my content, then subscribing to my channel is a really good way to show support. Thank you for watching.